Howdy ho, everybody!
Oh.
I don't know why I went so much more into that one. This is a Black Lives Matter, All Cops Are Bastards, and Trans Rights supporting channel. If you're not supporting that shit, then you can go the fuck home.
Mm-hmm.
This is season 8, episode 3. What's the... I want to get the name right. The Passion of the Jew.
All right, yes.
So, predictions.
So I assume this is based on, specifically when Passion of the Christ was coming out and Mel Gibson got pulled over and he whipped out all those anti-Semitic slurs.
I don't know. I believe this is actually before that.
Oh, really?
I believe so. I believe this is, like, when the movie had just come out in theaters.
Okay.
Like, to give you a timeline, I believe.
But, like, we've already been building up the Cartman really likes Mel Gibson the same way he liked Hitler.
I would say that the movie would have had been out for at least, like, a month at this point, if
Okay.
less. Because we've had 2 episodes where Cartman has, like, done, oh, you haven't gone to see Passion of Christ. Which means that during those 2 episodes, it was in theaters.
Sure.
So, it's been at the very least minimum 3 weeks, maybe a month.
Okay.
So
yeah.
So maybe I don't remember exactly when that happened. Like, being the pulled over thing. I don't remember. Do you remember how?
It was really close, but I don't know exactly when.
Yeah, so maybe.
So I think it's going to be Cartman is super into Mel Gibson. He wants to reenact the Passion of the Christ, and so they're trying to find a Christ that they can kill. Because
the other Christ's already dead.
Because they've already crucified Kenny before, but so this time I assume he'd be like, no, I don't want to.
Wait. They crucified Cartman. I don't think they crucified Kenny before, have they?
Oh, you're right, though. They did crucify Cartman.
Yeah. It was Cartman who got crucified in the one episode where they were doing that.
Ah, fair. So maybe they'll do Kenny, actually.
Okay.
Because, you like this. I remember.
You guys like this.
Yeah.
Alright. Any other predictions?
We'll have a subplot with Kyle being upset that everyone's super down with Mel Gibson.
Okay.
And then his dad will say at the end, it's okay because, we don't like him because he hates Jews. We like him because you can't disagree with the fact that Mad Max is really cool.
Okay. You know, I feel like you nailed the South Park message.
Oh, yeah.
Type of message. Alright. Chris the Floyd, check it out for $4 a month. Or on the Patreon below, you know the deal.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that ending was really abrupt. It could have gone a little bit longer, actually.
Oh, yeah.
What would you give this episode?
7 out of 10.
I think I'll also give it a 7 out of 10.
Okay.
Maybe an 8 out of 10. I considered it, but like I think a 7 out of 10. I was gonna give it an 8 or 9 out of 10 up until the like convergence of like all the Jews and all the townspeople and everything.
Yeah.
And like they did like a half message that they didn't do anything
Right.
with, but it wasn't also like this is funny because it's dumb. It was just kind of like a half-assed sort of thing.
Yeah.
And that's why I like taking it down a little bit. Like that was just felt like they didn't have an idea and they were just kind of like trying to stretch it out time a little bit longer, but
Yeah, like, the end felt a bit clunky to me, and I feel like they went a little too hard on the Mel Gibson's crazy card. Not as a,
I am not gonna. I love that, but yeah.
I mean, this is just going to be a problem with me throughout all of South Park. You can't do the same joke more than 15 out of 20 minutes and have it still be funny to me.
I don't think this was 15 out of 20 minutes.
It felt like it was about 15 out of 20 minutes.
See, I felt like I feel like they could have done more with Mel Gibson. Like,
Sure.
he was just kind of like extremely like Looney Tunes, goofy and everything like that, but like they were just kind of like I think the ending there, like the ending was very abrupt. I feel like the ending could have gone on a little bit more and had a little bit more of the message and stuff too, but yeah. Anyway, like I haven't looked into much of the trivia for this one, but I do know that like this is extremely highly considered one of like the best South Park episodes. It actually got released on DVD before any of season 8 got released on DVD.
Damn.
Because it got released on DVD like with a bundle of some other just like episodes people loved, specifically for Passion of Christ coming out on DVD.
Ah. Clever.
Yeah, very clever. But Matt Stone and Trey Parker are both like, we don't really like this episode that much. We know why people like it a lot, but we as the people who made it look on it and go like, this was a very half-assed job, and we wanted to do so much more with it, but we just didn't. We didn't. Like, either we didn't or we didn't have the time. They just said,
Sure.
we could have done so much more with this.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Yeah. So like, yeah, as myself,
Mm-hmm.
I give it a 7 out of 10. I think it's a really good episode. I think it's one of the South Park episodes that has like the most on point social commentary.
Mm-hmm.
It is. They even admit, like they do the thing in this episode where they even like talk about like the fact that Cartman is the same sort of thing as Mel Gibson, where people are looking up to this thing as something that it is not, or like really filling in their head as to like, you know, people that like obsess over Cartman and like are like, oh yeah, Cartman's always right. I love Cartman. Cartman's such a badass, and they forget all the times that he gets literally shit on by Mel Gibson or
Right.
get the shit beaten out of him or all that stuff. And just like same sort of thing as Passion of the Christ, where it comes out, it's
Right.
extremely anti-Semitic, and people are like getting into it and like feeling like getting into it and saying that it is like a historically accurate thing and like, oh man, this opened my eyes to all this stuff that happened, when it's like, no, it didn't. There's so little we actually know about that shit.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's the same sort of thing of people just latching on to something as if it is being told as the truth when it isn't, like
Right.
like South Park, you know. And they you know barely touch on it this episode, but at least they touch on it, you know.
Sure.
At least they have, you know, like the whole Cartman thing acknowledged.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wish they would go more into it. That's such an avenue to be able to, you know, make fun of like a huge portion of their audience, and they just chicken out on it every time. And if anything, there's a lot of pandering to the Cartman fans.
Right.
Like they'll do stuff like this where Cartman gets shit on, but then they'll also do other episodes that are just like a pandering to a Cartman fan
Sure.
sort of thing. Not in a saying Cartman fan is Cartman stan, I should say, as opposed to Cartman fan. I am a Cartman fan.
Sure.
Cartman is funny. This episode is a fantastic Cartman episode. But like Cartman stans are the, you know, hilarious, like, how are you this dumb? And you know, it's such a comedy mine if they had not mined.
Right. It's. Yeah, I hope they do that, because like I can see the germ of it in this episode, but I would not say like that was the focus of this episode, really.
I mean, it was a minuscule, like, one joke thing during the whole gathering all the people in his backyard and everything.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that so specifically like the line of like I can't remember exactly what the line was, but, you know, like, oh, we're all just following the 7-year-old boy who, you know, because he's a 7-year-old boy, he must be, like, saying the truth or whatever. You know, oh, the innocence is what makes it believable.
Right.
All that shit. Yeah, what else do you want to talk about the episode? I'll give you the floor now. I rambled for quite a lot.
So, I remember the Passion Mania, when Passion of the Christ came out. It was buck wild. I only ended up seeing the censored version because, of course...
I've actually never seen Passion of the Jew, by the way.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
Passion of the Christ, by the way, I mean.
I never, like, my parents didn't see it in the theaters, but my dad went out, got the, like, original DVD release, and then about a week later, of course, Walmart was like, oh crap, this is, you know, it's too explicit, please come back, and you can trade it in for a less explicit version.
Yeah.
And that was the version I saw. I've never seen, like, the fully uncensored version.
Okay.
But, I mean, it is, you know, it is, like, 2 hours of Saw.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I didn't, you know, bother. I didn't even, really, to be fair, didn't know it was even that big of a thing, you know?
Really?
Yeah, never really had heard of it before South Park. Just,
Okay.
you know, completely off our radar.
I definitely remember, like, living life was a lot like this episode of South Park. Like, everyone I knew was talking about Passion of the Christ.
Like, my family was. I remember my family, you know, having something to say about it. But it was not, like, you know, to a point where I would have acknowledged it in any, you know, way of, like, oh, should I see this movie or not, you know? It, yeah, basically didn't exist to me.
Yeah. It was one of those classic... It was like Freddy vs. Jason, where, like, an R movie comes out, and then everyone at my school starts talking about it, and I'm like, well, I know I'm not going to be able to see an R movie, so I have to wait until the DVD comes out, I guess.
No, I never even heard anybody talk about it as, like, an R movie that people wanted to see.
Oh, yeah.
Not a thing where I grew up.
But yeah, so this made me a little nostalgic for that awful time.
Yeah.
And it is, like... I think this was definitely... In the comics, like, in comic books, the 90s was the age of, if you do something really dark and gritty and, you know, awful, it feels more real. Because that's what people associate with reality. And I would say, I mean, you know, cinema did it as well. Passion of the Christ might have been the first movie I personally saw where I also went like, okay, so people look at this and they go, it's real, but I don't have enough, like lived experience to know what real really is.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't know if this is more or less real. Like, I don't know why people are watching this and coming away from it saying that proves that Christ is real.
It's also a very, like, as Stan and Kenny put it, like, even it, like, this movie is so historically inaccurate and just so, it's just a snuff film. It's so, it's terrible.
Like, it's accurate in some place. Like, you know, it's accurate in, like, you know, the clothing and whatnot.
Sure, it's
that
accurate.
is the, like, you know, if that is accurate, then that means everything must be accurate.
Yeah, that is the worst kind of shit. Or, you know, vice versa. I also hate, like, not a historical accuracy thing at all, but just watching a horror movie and it's, like, based on real events. And it's like, oh, do you mean, like, you based it off of a guy picked up a hamburger, and then you based the entire movie, and you're like, well, we can say it's based off a real movie, because I did see a guy pick up a hamburger once, and that does happen in this movie. But anyway, as I was saying, like, it's not historically accurate in any way, or you know, aside from the small little things like that, and also, it's not entertaining.
Right.
Like, you know, you can't even have the argument of like, well, it doesn't matter if it's historically accurate or not. It's supposed to be an entertaining film. It's not supposed to be an entertaining film.
Right.
It's supposed to be a slog.
Yeah.
You know, so both arguments flop. You know, both arguments fail. But yeah, I actually really like the, like, Mel Gibson being super, like, Looney Tunes, Daffy Duck sort of thing. Like, it's I think better than what they were doing with Osama bin Laden. Like,
Sure.
It was kind of funny, but again, that was one that I would say, like, Mel Gibson in this, you said there was 15 minutes out of it, but I also feel like it was not that long of the episode, and the Bin Laden thing was even less. Like, that was so little of the episode that we got that. That, yeah, it was, you know, I like this one better, I think.
Okay. You know, it's really wild that we have seen the synagogue twice, and it's been different both times.
Yeah.
And this is the first time we have seen Kyle's parents at the synagogue.
You're right. But yeah, I do think Kyle's plotline is, like, the weakest one here. There's not really anything funny going on. It's kind of, like, necessary for the plot, but there's not really anything funny happening during his plot lines.
Yeah. They definitely could have gone more over the top with that.
Yeah. Also, I do think, like, if I, like, were Matt and Trey and I had to, like, change one thing, like, as I said, like, oh, they wish they did more with it, I think the beginning is, you know, kind of, like, you know, it's to reestablish that, like, yeah, they've been arguing about the Passion of the Christ for the past 2 episodes and stuff, but, like, you know, they could have used that time for, it wasn't bad, you know, I thought it was funny, but if there was any time that they wanted to reappropriate, I think that was probably the best place to do it.
Sure, agreed.
It's very, you know, not that relevant. Yeah, a lot of great not animation, but just new angles and everything.
Yeah, like, they're really pushing what the models can do that we haven't seen before.
Yeah. It's such a self-contained... There's a lot of stuff sometimes in the episodes where they'll just do, like, a gag that feels like, you know, I don't remember it being in any episode because it could just happen in practically any episode, like the phone bit with Cartman here. But yeah, that's such a just good gag in and of itself. I understand immediately, or not immediately, but like when Cartman starts to get into his like spiel, well, I'll do this, like he gets in a very specific cadence of, I don't know what emotion that is, but like smugness, and he immediately notices that.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's okay. Also, just, you know, Stan and Kenny together, I always like. Just wish Kenny would fucking do more.
Oh man, we're not that far in, but we're like 3 episodes in. Kenny's done like one thing in 1 episode.
Yeah.
I'm worried.
Kenny's just here now.
The Passion of the Christ nightmare scene was alright. It's like in terms of the different art styles they do for like a certain like time period or for, you know, like a fictional thing in universe.
Yeah.
I thought those were fine.
Yeah. I like the voices in the background. It's like, yeah, kill that guy. I don't know why they kill that guy. It caused me so much. My honorable mention of favorite joke.
I really hope we see more 3/4 profile Cartman.
Yeah.
It is the chunkiest form of Cartman.
So chunky. Oh yeah, so like this is the first time in a while where we've gotten the just like face on a South Park character, like Saddam Hussein we've had, but that is also the he is Canadian, so the mouth just like flaps. Which it's so weird watching Mel Gibson talk. Because like they do the thing, like they're trying to match the lips like they would a South Park character.
Like they used to do it a lot more in the early seasons.
Yeah. But yeah, even then they had less mouth flaps that they were doing back in the early season because it was less frame rate and
Yeah.
less, it was standard definition and all that stuff. So now with it being in HD with so many more lip flaps that they're using per second and stuff like that, it looks so weird watching Mel Gibson talk because it feels like a ventriloquist dummy. None of it feels like it's matching up at all. Versus like with Saddam, it does,
Yeah. I wonder what it's like in season 20 something. They might have the technology to just deepfake the heads now.
When we get to season 10, I am going to ask you, what do you think is what do you think was going on in season 20?
Okay.
Like a good halfway.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to do it.
Yeah. So I don't know what the original reason, the original joke's reason for using the Klingon is, but the reason why Mel Gibson does the Klingon shout thing is because George Clooney did it in Team America World Police.
Okay.
Don't know why George Clooney did it in Team America World Police, but that's why Mel Gibson did it here.
Okay. Because that was the one thing that wasn't Looney Tunes. It was a very specific reference. I was like, I don't know why.
I mean, now you know and still don't know.
Yeah.
I will say, they do say in this episode that Passion of the Christ was the highest grossing film of all time, which is not true.
Oh, absolutely not.
But yeah, I should mention that. That's pretty much all the
really?
trivia I have for this episode, yeah.
I'm really surprised it wasn't more
There's a lot of people just saying, people being like, oh yeah, it was a good episode, I like this episode, South Park's at it again, oh yeah, South Park is South Park good episode.
Okay.
But yeah, not anything really interesting.
Yeah, fair.
There's I think more of the interesting trivia is when people have negative things to say, or there's criticism coming back, or there's complaints being driven to Comedy Central or stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, a lot of Jewish newspapers were like, thank you. But yeah, I would like to say I really appreciate that we've had a fucking South Park episode where they have actually taken a fucking stance, a hard stance, and been very just beating into the movie the whole time.
Yeah.
And they stuck with it. They didn't half-ass it in the end. They had a little half-ass message there, but it wasn't that wasn't the ending message.
Sure.
So I'll give them that much at least. Thank you for fucking having some goddamn balls. Oh, right, next episode. Before we end this, next episode is, of course, You Got F'd in the A.
Oh, boy.
See you guys for that. Until then, get the fuck out of here.